Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving straight into something that affects literally all of us, every single day. We're getting deep into Morgan Housel's massively popular book, The Psychology of Money. Now, Housel presents a premise that pretty much flips everything we've ever been taught about finance completely upside down. He argues that building true wealth isn't actually about complex math, and you definitely don't need to be a financial genius. As it turns out, it's almost entirely about human behavior.
So let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why so many incredibly smart people just completely fail with money? I mean, in the real world, we see highly educated, top-tier executives lose it all. Take Richard Fuscone, a super successful finance executive who borrowed heavily and then went bankrupt during the 2008 crisis. But then, on the flip side, we see average earners quietly build massive fortunes. Think about Ronald Read, a humble janitor and gas station attendant with absolutely no formal financial training who somehow managed to build an $8 million fortune over his lifetime. It's a fascinating paradox, right?
You see, there's this huge misconception in our society. We mistakenly believe that financial success requires high intelligence, elite college degrees, and this intense encyclopedic financial knowledge. But the reality is vastly different. Doing exceptionally well with money is almost entirely about your personal behavior. It's about your daily habits, your patience, and most importantly, your emotional control. You can literally have all the financial knowledge in the world, but if you lack patience and can't control your emotions, all that knowledge is practically useless.
To unpack all this today, we're going to move through three distinct phases. First, phase 1, unlearning. Then, phase 2, the invisible strategy. And finally, phase 3, the true prize.
All right, let's kick things off with phase 1, unlearning. This is all about your mindset.
To truly understand wealth, we first have to unlearn our deeply held assumptions about why people make the financial choices they do. The core truth here is that no one is actually crazy with money. People are just making decisions based on their own unique lived experiences. For example, someone who grew up during a crushing economic recession might be extremely cautious, right? They might hoard cash and be totally terrified of the stock market. Meanwhile, someone who came of age during a booming economy might take wild, aggressive risks. The point is, everyone's perspective makes perfect sense to them based on what they've personally lived through.
And this brings us to two incredibly powerful yet totally invisible forces: luck and risk. Imagine two entrepreneurs for a second. They have the exact same talent, the same work ethic, and the same ambition. Entrepreneur A launches their business at the absolute perfect moment in a booming market and becomes a massive success. Entrepreneur B launches the exact same business, but right before an unforeseen global recession and fails completely. We so often give successful people 100% of the credit and fully blame those who fail. But the reality is heavily influenced by circumstances that are just far beyond our control.
Which leads us to this beautiful quote directly from the source material. Morgan Housel writes, "The lesson isn't that hard work doesn't matter. The lesson is to stay humble." And that's exactly it. Hard work absolutely unequivocally matters. But because of those invisible forces of luck and risk, we really have to remain humble when we experience success. And we've got to remain resilient and hopeful when we experience failure. There are always going to be factors operating outside of our control.
Moving right along to phase 2, the invisible strategy. Let's talk about the mechanics.
So we're shifting gears now to the actual mechanics of wealth. And honestly, they're highly counterintuitive. I want you to guess who is actually in a better financial position here. On one side, we have someone driving a $100,000 luxury car. On the other side, someone driving a modest, older car. Now, we naturally assume the person in the luxury car has more money. But what if they have a massive car payment, maxed out credit cards, and literally zero savings? Meanwhile, the person in the old car quietly has millions invested. You see, luxury goods only show us what someone has spent, not what they actually have left. This means we really need to redefine what it is we're actually chasing. Wealth is not a fancy watch or a massive house. Wealth is money that hasn't been spent. It's invisible. It's the financial security quietly sitting in your bank account, accumulating in your investments, and resting in your emergency fund. Wealth is simply the invisible foundation that provides you with future flexibility.
And that brings us to the very dangerous trap of lifestyle inflation. Let's say you get a promotion at work and your income shoots up by 30%. Fantastic, right? But then you upgrade your apartment, you buy a much nicer car, and you start eating out at expensive restaurants more often. Suddenly, your expenses have also gone up by 30%. You're earning more, sure, but you are not actually wealthier. Simply increasing your income does absolutely nothing to build wealth if your lifestyle inflation rises at the exact same rate. Your ability to save your money, even if you don't have a specific reason to save it, is what actually buys you control over your future.
Once you've got that saving habit down, you unlock finance's ultimate secret weapon: compounding. Consistency plus time is vastly more powerful than brilliance without patience. Think about Warren Buffett for a second. Yes, obviously he's a highly skilled investor, but his true superpower is that he started investing extremely early and then just stayed invested for decades. You don't need spectacular, unbelievable returns every single year. You just need reasonable returns maintained for a very long period of time to see enormous results.
But I have to give you a bit of a warning here. Getting rich and staying rich, those require two wildly different skill sets. Getting rich requires optimism. You have to believe in an idea, start a business, and take calculated risks. But staying rich, that requires humility, it requires intense discipline, and knowing when enough is enough. One terrible, overconfident decision can literally wipe out decades of compounding progress.
Because of that exact risk, you absolutely have to build what Housel calls a margin of safety. You cannot build a financial life that relies on everything going perfectly, because, spoiler alert, it won't. The stock market will crash, job losses happen, unexpected expenses will absolutely hit you out of nowhere. Having a margin of safety means you prepare for these realities ahead of time. You build a financial life that can survive when things go wrong, rather than just assuming perfection.
So the big takeaway here is that you really don't need to be perfect. You just need to follow a surprisingly boring but highly effective behavioral loop. Step 1. Make good decisions consistently. Step 2. Stick to a simple strategy for decades. And Step 3, and this is by far the hardest one, do absolutely nothing when everyone else around you panics. You don't need a crystal ball to predict the future. You just need to control your emotions during market crashes and hold on to your simple long-term strategy.
And that leads us into Phase 3, the true prize, the ultimate goal behind all of this.
So, if you're doing all this work unlearning our bad habits and employing the mechanics of saving and compounding, what is it all actually for? Well, the absolute greatest benefit of money isn't a luxury car or a bigger house. It is the freedom to choose how you spend your time. We really need to redefine wealth as the power to wake up on a Monday morning and know for a fact that you don't have to work today if you don't want to. It's the ability to choose what you do, who you do it with, and when you take a break.
All right, let's do a rapid-fire recap to really lock this in. Here are the top 10 lessons directly from the source. Number 1, your behavior shapes your finances, not just math. 2, luck and risk matter way more than we like to admit. 3, looking rich and being wealthy are totally different things. 4, wealth is the money you don't spend. 5, saving buys you critical flexibility. 6, time is the ultimate fuel for compounding. 7, staying rich takes intense humility. 8, always build a margin of safety. 9, choose consistency over perfection. And finally, 10, wealth equals time freedom.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question to really chew on today. If you spend your entire life endlessly chasing money, constantly upgrading your lifestyle, trying so hard to look rich, but you never actually gain control over your own time, what was all that money really for?
That right there is the lingering, impactful truth about the psychology of money. True wealth is invisible, and ultimately it is all about having the freedom to decide how you spend your most valuable, totally non-renewable asset, your time. Keep that in mind as you make your financial decisions this week. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will catch you next time.